Hello, you're listening to Dishing It with me, Colin, as I let you listen into frank and open conversations with food producers, content creators, and food writers as we delve into the Scottish and travel food scene. This week's episode is an exciting one, as I'm happy to announce that I'm pregnant. Joking, I kid. I have my first sponsor, so today's episode is kindly sponsored by Sea Shanty Rum, inspired by the viral sensation Wellerman, you know the song, and the North East's rich maritime history. Aberdeen-based distillers Ardent Spirits has produced its Sea Shanty Rum to add to your drink stash. Infused with botanicals, this rum is smooth and sweet with taste of caramels and hints of coffee, and all bottled up in one beautiful bottle, which I will be fabricating into a lamp when I'm finished with it. Behind this bottle is a charitable aim too, as Sea Shanty Rum aims to raise £10,000 for the RNLI Aberdeen, with proceeds from bottle sales going towards essential life jackets, PPE and ongoing maintenance. If you're not a straight rum drinker, fear not, you'll love working this versatile spirit into a cocktail. A few weeks back I created a white shanty, a take on a white Russian, and an espresso rum tea, which was inspired by my all-lasting love for an espresso martini. Delicious. If you fancy adding this to your home bar, you can purchase a bottle through the Sea Shanty Rum website, which is detailed in the description of this episode. So today I'm joined by Shauna, who's behind the travel account Exploring Edinburgh, to talk about all things cosy reading snugs, peaceful pockets, and must-visit spots in Edinburgh and beyond. I first met Shauna when I was working for Visit Aberdeenshire, where I worked closely with journalists, bloggers and social influencers to plan trips all around the North East, to share their experiences with their audiences. An eye-opening experience working with a few, let's say, characters, but also so many genuinely nice people met along the way who were a pleasure to work with and plan trips for, and Shauna was definitely one of them. Shauna's account is one I look to daily for an escape, and especially through lockdown, her posts definitely built up my must-see list, mostly for Edinburgh, as it's a city I've never really explored properly, which we'll get into in the podcast. But before we get into all the food and travel recommendations, here's just some of my food highlights from the past week. It's your essential dose of food news with your host, the Food Hoover. So this past week has been one for exploring new food hits for me. I've mentioned the Backyard Beach Collective in the last few podcasts, and before you call me a broken record, I could not go an episode not mentioning it again after eating here last Monday. First up is Aberdam, newest to the food scene I believe, and had to make a visit here to try it out after seeing many a picture of this one. I ordered a towering cone of fries doused in garlic and truffle mayo with lashings of parmesan on top. It was absolutely beautiful. If Aberdeen was to have its own Statue of Liberty, it would be holding a cone of Aberdam fries. I think this will definitely be one to watch. What I didn't discover until the next day was that they do chocolate coated fries too. I know, madness, but it looks all kinds of good. This is a new venture set up by Dave Griffiths, who is also behind Avo and Stacks, who I spoke with last week on the podcast. So if you want to hear about the exciting developments that are coming up for the city, head over to last week's podcast for a listen. Arriving at the food market, donning my stretchy jeans, I was not going to stick to just one course for the day. So I hopped over to Sushi Box for a tray of super fresh salmon and avocado maki. A huge thank you to the salmon gods for bestowing Sushi Box onto Aberdeen, and sorry to anyone who saw me eat my dish as I looked like a hungry Pac-Man collecting dots. Yep. And while I'm sharing new food expeditions, I sat in at the Newborough Inn on Sunday after a lush wee beach walk along Newborough Beach. If you haven't been there, you need to go. For one, beautiful beach. Two, you see a lot of seals. It's great. After emptying my boots of the full contents of the beach, I ordered a steak and skirly panini, an absolute vibe for a Sunday lunch. If you're not feeling a full Sunday roast, go for the steak and skirly panini. Highly recommend. Okay, next up is exciting news that Orca Cafe is opening up Orca Bistro in Ballater, keeping us Aberdonians well stocked with caffeine and plenty of cakes over lockdown. It's great to hear that this relatively new business is expanding to add to Ballater's local food print, joining the likes of the Rothesay Rooms, Clack and Grill and the Carriage. Great news to hear. There's no date confirmed yet and no sneak peeks at the menu, but if it's coconut caramel slice is anything to go by, this place will blow your socks off. But while you wait for that to open, visit the cafe on St Swithin Street in Aberdeen for a nice coffee and, if timed right, a ginormous NYC-style cookie from the Cookie Cult. They look beautiful. Now that we can return to the shops again, all you avid shoppers out there might be in need of a good energy boost to see you through the shopping marathon. While you're in luck, as Bio Cafe has set up a new vending machine in the Trinity Centre packed with plenty of vegan grab-and-go salads, protein smoothies, overnight oats, veg pots, wraps, the list goes on. This will make a perfect refuel station for anyone looking for a quick fix. And finally, I'm so excited to hear that Café Bohème reopens on Wednesday, May 19th. We can't go abroad right now, but the next best alternative is a night at this French restaurant that has all the feels of a French lodge cum saloon with roaring fire, sophisticated dining, and the best wine going. Just add a talking clock, candelabra, and the scene is set for a BR guest musical number. Returning with an all singing and all dancing 5-course tasting menu paired with the best wines, this will be well worth every penny of the £80 a head fee. Using the best produce to create its ingenious meals, you're in good hands here. The orange cure smoked duck breast with apple cider gel. Hello! Link to book this is in the description of this podcast. Now that's my roundup of highlights for this week, but let's get cracking on episode 5 and I'll catch up with you at the end.
Hello.
Hello, how are
you?
you?
Hello, there we go. I'm good. How are you?
So good. Oh, it's so good to see you.
It is so good. It's been so long.
It's been very long
Too
indeed.
long.
Thanks so much for joining me on today's episode.
I'm so thrilled. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been great. I mean, I followed you for so many years on Instagram, and we've had the pleasure of working together in my previous role. When I sent you on a wild goose chase across Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire, going
it's
from
been some
stop to stop.
my best memories.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it really has. Whenever anyone's like, where's the best places to go in Scotland? I'm like, Aberdeen. You have to go to Aberdeen. Like, you just really took me by surprise. I had this preconceived notion of Aberdeen, and I went there and I was like, it's so different. Everybody needs to come here.
Oh, amazing. I've not even paid you to say that. That's fantastic.
No. No, I love it.
It was probably February last year that we last saw each other in person. We speak on and off on Instagram and things.
Yep.
Obviously, a lot has changed in that year. What have you been doing to keep yourself busy through this mental time?
Wow. I think for the beginning of lockdown anyway, work just went on pause. I think nobody was really doing any kind of marketing or social media marketing. So I really just had to, thankfully the weather was so beautiful last summer. I remember we had such nice sunny days.
Scorcher.
Yeah, so I just helped my mum out in the garden a lot, and we just like had tea in the garden every day, like a little routine, and we'd go for our walk every day. So I think once you get a different routine, I don't know, it just helps pass the time, and you're like, well, I've got this to do today and that to do, even if it's just small things like I'm going to plant that today, or like cut the hedge, or
I know, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's like an important thing. I think for a lot of people, they found that you just got a new routine. Like everyone just like was like, right, I usually go to work every day. I'm not doing that right now. I'll go, like you say, for a walk and whatever. Did you discover anywhere new that you'd never discovered before?
Yeah, I just thought that I had completely knew my local area, which I live in Fife with my parents at the moment. And we've got Lahore Meadows really near us. So I just always thought like, oh, I've completely explored it. I've lived here since I was like a teenager on and off. But we found so many different walks through fields that led to like little woods. And it's not the most exciting thing, but when you don't have anything new to explore, you're like,
everything's exciting.
Yes, it's like so exciting when you find this little path. You're like, this is the most exciting thing. Yeah, but yeah, just so many walks, and I ended up reading so much last year, which was really fun. So yeah, just new routines to pass the time.
Great, and you mentioned books, and we'll get onto that later. So your focus for today is reading snugs and best places that you love. So we'll get onto that later on. So I had a quick check before we logged in, and I mean, you've definitely been busy over the past year, and you've managed to continually grow your following. I think when we started working together, you were maybe like around the 30,000 mark, maybe
about
maybe
that.
around that. And now you're 55,000. So you're doing something
slowly
that people
but surely.
Obviously that didn't happen overnight. So do you want to take us back to where it all started and kind of give us a flavor to how you got into it and everything?
Yeah, well, back when I started, I think things like content creators and like micro influencers and influencers weren't a thing. So I remember going to Edinburgh for university, and I was just taking so many photos of the city. I think Instagram was relatively new at that time. So I didn't really want to post all my Edinburgh photos on my personal account, because I'm like, oh, my uni friends are going to be like, this is not what we want to see from you. So I ended up creating my own Instagram account that was just private for my Edinburgh photos. And then I just kept that to myself. And then I didn't really know what to do for my summer. I think it was maybe, was it the first year or second year summer? But I saw that there was a course that Edinburgh Uni was running, and you could do a summer project where you designed your course. You could do whatever you wanted to do, and it would count
Oh,
towards
cool.
just like extra credits. I don't know what, I never did anything with them, but it was just kind of something that they were experimenting with. So I picked Edinburgh and photography. So I got someone at the Edinburgh Art College to talk to about photography, and I just went and did my own Edinburgh history, just like
Oh my God,
Googling and
amazing.
reading books. Yeah. And then I ended up turning my Edinburgh Instagram account from private to public and just sharing photos of where I've been wandering and like bits of history that I was finding out. And then I wasn't really expecting anybody to follow it. It was just for the project to document it.
Yeah.
And then people just started coming and like commenting, and it was just so exciting. But yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
It's
Thanks to uni in
crazy.
a way.
I know, mental to think
Yeah,
that little project grew to what you do now, and you do
exactly.
it as a full-time job,
Yes,
really.
yes.
Do you ever find a pressure to, obviously you've got a certain style that
Mm,
your grid looks like. Do you ever find a pressure to kind of continually find new content but also make it fit your style?
yes. I feel like I really admire, there are some accounts that I follow. I love Polly Florence. I feel like her style is just so cohesive. And I feel I've tried to be more cohesive, but somehow with Edinburgh, there's so many contrasts. Like Old Town is so different from New Town and Leith that it's
Yeah.
quite impossible to keep a really cohesive style. So I'm trying to be a bit more um, relaxed with my
Yeah.
my approach now. Otherwise, I tend to stress out too much with being a perfectionist.
Yeah, it becomes too much, like too forced, and it
Yeah.
loses attraction. And
Mm-hmm.
as fickle as the Instagram world can be, I
Yeah.
think people can sniff out an account that is
Mm-hmm.
just like plugging stuff out that they don't care about it. But it's really nice to see in your content
Yeah.
that you actually just
Thank
care
you.
about everything you see. And
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
suppose with your images, it's more like you're walking down the street and you see something, you're like, oh, take a picture of that. That's a cool angle. That's kind of how you
Yes.
work, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Or finding, I love like sort of quirky things like the little free libraries that people
Mhm.
have just dotted around the place, or sometimes like phone boxes that have been converted into something else.
Yes.
That sort of thing I love.
Love a phone
Yeah.
box. Love a phone box.
Yeah.
Um, and you've also got involved in the vlogging world as
Mhm.
well.
Oh, yes.
So you've done a few kind of like city guides and things to do here
Hmm.
and there. And do you find being on YouTube gives you a different kind of creative eye to be able to
Yeah.
do different things that you wouldn't be able to do on Instagram?
Yes, I think so. I think I'm trying to remember how I got into vlogging. I think I was a huge fan of Casey Neistat, and he used to vlog every day. And I was like, I can do that, and that totally didn't work. I don't know how he managed to vlog every day. But yeah, I think whenever I'm feeling a little bit off with Instagram or lost my mojo, then I get back into YouTube, and I really enjoy filming and just documenting what I'm up to. And then I sort of get my Instagram mojo back again. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
it goes back and forth.
It's nice to
Yeah.
have that other side of it as well, because
Yes.
obviously you've got your blog as well.
Hmm.
So it's nice to have kind of vlog, photo, video that you can actually just dabble in between and
Exactly.
kind of
Yeah. And
find
I
your
think
mojo. If one mojo ends, you move on to the next
exactly.
mojo, and then
Yeah, and I think because the the Instagram account's always been Edinburgh focused, so sometimes I feel bad about adding too much of like personal. I've done a lot more this year because there isn't new content to share.
yeah, yeah.
um, but with my YouTube, people, I know that people are following just for, like not just Edinburgh content, if that makes sense,
They
like
kind of
my
want a piece of
life or
you.
books. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So I just have a bit more freedom to share whatever I'm in the mood to share.
that's really good.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And obviously, we touched on it. As you glance down your Instagram, you obviously love a book. Every
Yes.
caption you have is a quote from a book. I'm not a reader, so I admire anyone who has that much of a love for reading, because I'm like, I just wish I
Yeah.
could do that, but I'm reality TV. I'm like, get Towie
Yeah.
on, I'll watch
No, no.
that, fill up my brain. But yeah, you love books, and so much
Mhm.
so that you've even written your own book.
Oh, yes.
So for everyone listening, Shauna's got her own book called
Mhm.
Pretty Pockets of Pretty,
Mhm.
where you uncover hidden and quirky tucked
Yes.
away surprises around
Mhm.
Edinburgh. I might
Mhm.
have lifted that last bit from the blurb, but I couldn't
Yeah.
think of a better way to put it.
Yeah.
But did you find it a hard task filling the book?
Um, Good question. I don't think I did. For me, it was more, we had quite a tight turnaround. I think it was maybe just 6 months or less. I'm trying to remember how many months now, but just a couple of months to decide what we wanted to go in the book, to take the photos and also write the content. So it was more that I
Okay.
needed to tell myself, like, no, you need to stop. There might be more things you want to put in the book, but this is all we've got time
Yeah.
for. Otherwise, nothing's going to be finished. Everything's going to be partially done.
Yeah. Oh God, I
Yeah.
know. That would
Yeah.
have been
But
a right
also,
pressure.
yeah, just feeling bad, like leaving certain neighborhoods out. You're like, oh no, I do like you. It's just that we don't have the
Oh, I
time or
know.
space to fit you in.
It's actually a question I had lined up.
Yeah.
Was there, obviously that you just touched on, there's a place that you wished you could have included.
Yeah.
What was one of them that you really wish that you could have had in?
I think just after finishing the book, maybe like a month or so after it, me and my friend went to the secret herb garden. Oh, that's hard to say.
Oh, love the
Which
sound of
is,
that.
yeah, it's just near IKEA in Edinburgh. And you can obviously lots of herbs and plants and beautiful garden. And then in the middle, they've got like a glass house that you can have like tea and cake
Oh my
sitting
God,
amongst.
amazing.
Yeah, it's so lovely. So I think once I went there, I was like, oh, I wish that I'd included this in the book. But it's just one of
Oh,
those things. You keep visiting new places and you're like, oh, this should
exactly.
have been in the book.
And it might
And
not
there's
be so secret. It might not be
exactly,
so
yeah,
secret, so it's probably quite good that you did include it.
yeah,
So is that a place that you can just go, anyone can go to it and get herbs, or do you have, is it
yeah.
allotments, people kind of have their own
No,
space to grow
no,
their
I think
herbs?
I'm trying to think what they also do gin. I believe last time I was
Oh,
there.
ace.
Yeah, they were doing, I can't remember maybe it's just the secret herb garden gin. But yeah, you can just go along, buy plants and
Oh, amazing.
yeah, it looks such a nice place just to go for tea and cake. Like me and my friend didn't have time that day, but we're like, we need to come back and sit amongst all the plants.
All of this. Oh, that would be
Yeah.
great, and especially for people living in Edinburgh through lockdown. I bet that was a right good escape to
Exactly.
get to.
Yeah. And they have quirky things like old cars that plants are coming out of and that sort of
Oh
thing.
my God, ace.
Yeah.
Okay, that's somewhere firmly at the top of my travel list. Just
Definitely. I
popping
think
that
you
in
would love
there.
it. um,
Would you
yeah, but
ever do a book in another location?
I think probably not unless I moved somewhere and had stayed there for quite a long time, then I would
Got
feel
great.
like maybe I could. Um, but yeah, I would love to do one on even Glasgow. I think that would be really interesting, but I'd have to live there for quite a while
Yeah,
to figure out
get your bearings.
exactly. But I would love if someone wrote a similar book about Glasgow. Maybe there is, I'm not sure, but
There might be. I know there's a
yeah.
food guide.
Oh, very
I
good.
think it's Plate Expectations, the food
Oh,
blogger. I
yes.
think she's done a kind of street
Yes.
food guide, which
Yes,
is
she
really
has.
good.
It's so
It-
good. We actually wrote them at the same time with the same publisher, so
oh
that
no
was really
way! Oh,
fun to go
ace.
through the process and be like, "Hey,
Oh,
Ailey."
cool. Oh, that you had a little writing buddy. That's great.
Yeah.
When you got off the offer for writing your book, was
hmm
that something that you had always dreamed of doing or had planned, or was it totally out of the blue that you're like,
Yeah.
geez, Lily, where'd that come from?
It was it was definitely something that I was like, oh, it would be amazing to do in like 5 years' time or maybe even 10 years' time. That would be a dream. But I definitely didn't expect it to come along so
No.
soon. I think I remember getting the email just saying hello and like, would you be interested in popping down to our office just for a chat? And I was thinking like, oh, maybe they want me to contribute on a book, or maybe they want to use some of my photos for a book. So I had no idea what they wanted to chat about until I went down to their office and they were like, would you like to write a book about Edinburgh? And I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh,
So
geez.
yeah, I was definitely in a daze after the meeting on the bus home. I was like, oh my word, what's just happened?
You're like, did that actually happen?
Yeah, I don't, can I do this?
and
But yeah.
and that takes me on to my other question. Like, did you have any reservations about doing the
Oh
book? Was there anything that you're kind of
yeah,
feeling, oh God, I'm not cut out for this, can't get involved in
yeah.
that, or
I'm I think well definitely 100%. I was thinking I didn't even know if like my photos would be good enough for a book. Like they look fine on Instagram, but when they're bigger, I'm like, are they going to be okay quality? I didn't know anything about that printing it, and also I do enjoy writing to some degree, but I'm not somebody who sits down for hours and just loves writing. So I was kind of a bit worried, can I write a whole book in the space of time as well without just, I don't know, adding to bits and pieces to it along the way, but knowing that you have a
yeah.
deadline. It felt like a huge like dissertation almost that you had to finish.
Oh God,
And one that
you're
everyone would
just giving
read.
me cold
Not
sweats.
everyone, but yeah. But
I know,
yeah.
because I know how hard it is just from, I mean, I haven't written a blog in a
Yeah,
few months, but
yeah,
just even
mhm.
having that time to write a blog, which is like 500
Yeah.
words, like I can't even imagine writing a whole book, and me giving like sometimes I'm really struggle to stick to deadlines.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
I would find it impossible. So hats off to you for doing that.
Well, they had such wonderful editors too. Sometimes I would have an idea and I would write it and I'd be like, oh, that does not sound good, but I'll just send that as a rough draft, and then they would send it back and I'd be like, yes, that's what I was trying to say. So yeah,
Like you
definitely
did it
thank you
for
to the
me.
editors. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. In the book, you
Hmm.
detail Dr. Neil's garden in Duddington Village
Oh
as
yes.
your favourite spot in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
What makes it at the top of your list?
It's just such a peaceful spot. It's not very far from Edinburgh, especially from Old Town. I think it's maybe, I'm trying to think how far, maybe like half an hour's walk, maybe, which is not too bad. Um, and once you're on the other side of Arthur's Seat, it's so peaceful. There's like a loch, like Uddingston Loch, and there's always lots of wildlife. And when you walk into the place, you can just feel the community spirit. I think, was it last year, the year before, me and my friend were just there for a wander. Um, and then we spotted a sign to their community garden, and they have community sort of allotments. They have chickens that they all take turns to take care of, and they've planted an orchard. And then obviously Dr. Neil's garden is also there, which is so beautiful. But yeah, you definitely need to go if you haven't been yet. It's
Oh,
just such a peaceful oasis, the whole town, in my opinion.
yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
this is one thing I've realized from lockdown is that I've like been to all the like key like
Yeah.
cities in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually not explored them. I've probably stayed
Yeah.
very, very
Mm-hmm.
close to the city centre and
I've
not
done the
ventured
same.
very far.
Yeah. If not for you, I would have just been to Aberdeen city centre and I would have loved it, but I wouldn't have seen all the other things Aberdeen has to
Oh yeah,
offer. And same with Glasgow. I'm like, I need somebody that's a local to tell me, like, start off in this place, which
where
is
to go?
outside. Yeah, exactly. Because I just
I know,
stay in
and
the same place.
yeah, I know. Like, and
Yeah,
they're creatures of habit. You just like, oh, well, I'll go there because
exactly.
that person went there, so I'll do that as well.
Exactly.
But that takes me nicely on to my next question.
Hmm.
So I've just got off the train in Edinburgh, and I've
Okay.
got no plan. I phone
Oh.
you up for a hidden
Hmm.
gem stop
Hmm.
and a quiet coffee snug to read in. Where would you
Hmm.
send
I feel like I've got so many ideas for this.
me?
um, Depending on the weather and the day, I'm going to recommend a few spots for you.
Great.
If you were going to Old Town, I love Dunbar's Close Garden, or Dunbar Garden Close. And it's just off the Royal Mile, but it's this lovely public garden that I see a lot of tourists sort of peek their heads in, like, are you sure we can go in here? Is this not someone's back garden? And it's beautifully laid out. Goodness, I should remember this. I'm not sure if it's like 18th century style. I could be completely wrong. Or is it 17th century? But it's laid out really prettily. And during summer, all the flowers are in bloom, and it has a view up towards like Robert Burns's monument and over towards, I think you can even see like Balmoral Hotel. But it's such a nice spot
Okay.
if you're getting a takeaway from, I would recommend Ghana and Guga if you're in the area.
Oh, lovely
Um,
name.
yeah, they're just right next to Waverley Station. So sometimes I will get a sandwich from there and just go and sit in Dr. Neil's garden on a nice day, because it's such a lovely spot. You don't even, well, it's so quiet at the moment anyway, but even during the festival, if you just pop down that close, you're like, oh, a little bit of quiet and peace.
Get away from it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I
that
know
was
because
one
the
of my spots.
last time I was down in Edinburgh, when you just
Hmm.
mentioned the festival, that was probably the
Hmm.
last time I was there was
Oh,
not
wow.
obviously not last year, but the year before,
Yeah, year before.
and I just couldn't believe how
Hmm.
busy it was. Like
Yeah.
it's probably very naive of me, but I remember I went down, I was like, you actually can't move.
No,
Like
it's
it
just
is
like
rammed.
heads everywhere, especially like
Yeah,
near
it's
St.
insane.
Giles. Yeah, which is
Oh,
why I was so shocked when I went back, because I've been in Fife for like the past year, but I just got a flat. So I was just popping there to get keys and stuff. And I took a walk down the Royal Mile, and it was so eerie because obviously none of the shops are open. And I think I just saw like a handful of people from like at the bottom of the Royal Mile to the top. And I'm like, this is so strange, because usually, even if you come at this time of the year, it's less busy, but there's still quite a few people about. So it was just so weird. Yeah, compared to the fringe anyway.
yeah, insane.
Yeah. Oh, a few more hidden gems. If you're going to Stockbridge, I would highly recommend popping by the Potted Garden, which is just this beautiful house, a really cute house. And I'm trying to think, Mandy, I believe, is the owner. She's so sweet. Sometimes she pops out and like waves to me. And she's got just quite a small garden, but she's put so much love into it. There's pots all the way up the steps, and like it's such a pretty spot. And there's also just a short walk from there on Henderson Row. There's a sort of cacti garden.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've never met the people, but I think it's maybe an older couple, and they've got an like a sort of vintage chair outside, and the chair's planted with all the cacti,
Oh,
and there's like
ace.
wellies with plants bursting out of them. It's just so cute.
Oh, that sounds like right on
Yeah,
my street, proper quirky.
yeah, and the shore as well. My last place I'll mention,
Oh, the
in Leith.
shore.
Yeah, because I feel like people do go there, but it's not as popular as it should be because it's so pretty.
And what
Yeah.
is there to see there?
It looks, it's just lovely buildings, and it's, I think it is a harbor. I don't want to say harbor, but it's the water of Leith flows through it.
Oh,
So yeah, it's
okay.
definitely not a harbor. But it reminds me, not that I've ever been to Amsterdam, but you know the buildings along the water
Oh,
walking.
is this like the classic Instagram picture that you'll
Yes,
see of the house on the side
of
and there's water going through the middle?
yes, I think so. I'll need to send you a photo afterwards to be like,
Yeah, I could
this
be
is
thinking
what
of
I
something
mean.
else maybe, but I think I know what you're on about.
Yeah. And there's a really good cafe there. Oh goodness. Now I've forgotten the name of it. Oh my word. This is my memory. After not being in Edinburgh for a year, I'm
I
like,
know
what is it
it's
called?
wiping away fast.
I know.
We'll let you off. You've been away from Edinburgh for a long time.
I know.
We'll
um
get you back immediately to get the
William and
memory
Johnson. Oh
restored.
my goodness. There we go. William
William
and
and
Johnson
Johnson.
in Custom Lane, which is the location. Oh goodness. But yeah, that's such a wonderful coffee shop if you're looking for somewhere to go. And
Oh, ace.
it's got quite a few seats, so you could sit there and read for a little while. And they often have they have a pop-up space next to it, so often they'll have different places like art exhibitions or like
Oh, ace.
independent business popping up there. So I really love that place.
Oh, love places with a little pop up.
Yeah,
Always
yeah.
good. Well, now that we're fully into recommendations, I've got another meaty question for you.
Yeah.
So you've got the power to fabricate your own perfect reading snug, pulling
Oh
together
my
your
word.
favorite
Hmm.
places in Scotland.
Yeah.
Which setting are you in? What view are you
Hmm.
looking on to?
Hmm.
What drink are you drinking? What food are you eating? And what book do you have in your hand?
Great. I feel
I
like
can
this
remind
is,
you of all the
yes.
options again,
I
but yeah.
I feel like this is making me so excited for when we can travel again and go back to coffee shops. um, so I would be sitting in, there's so many coffee shops and cafes, and I feel like that's where I would sit because that's my happy place. I would love to be sitting in Unorthodox Roasters in Kinross. Um, I don't know, have you been there or heard of it? They've got one in
No,
Stirling
never
as
heard of
well.
it.
Yeah, there's just such friendly people as well that run it. And just such a cozy space, and they always do their window displays lovely. Anyway, so I'd be sitting there. I'd be ideally, if I could have any view, I think I'd be looking out onto the Firth of Forth. I think that's one of my
Oh,
favorite
nice.
views. Yeah. I'm trying to think, and eating.
What sort of day are you looking on to the Firth of Forth?
Oh, good question. I think a moody day, actually. I do love a
Oh,
bit of
moody
moody
day?
weather, especially if I'm in a cafe and I don't have to go outside.
I mean, nice and cozy. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
But not too misty so that I can still see the Forth Bridge. That would be
And you
perfect.
still need to get your photo.
Exactly. I don't
So
want
to get your
to.
photo.
And I would be eating a white chocolate and raspberry tart from the pastry section.
Oh my God, that sounds
It's
great.
so good. That was the first everything I've had from the pastry section, and every time I go in, I order pretty much the same thing. Sometimes I get that with something else. But yeah, that's a favorite. And I would be drinking a tea. Well, actually, Unorthodox Roasters has their own tea, which is really good.
Oh,
But
ace.
I also wanted to give Rose of Your Tea a shout out because they're kind of my favorite place to get tea. One of my favorite anyway. So I'd be drinking one of their many teas. I'm trying to think
Do you
if
have
I
a
had to
favorite?
pick. Depending on my mood, I think a honey bush. I quite like a honey bush. It's a
Honeybush.
Yeah, it's a like there's no caffeine. It's a herbal tea, and it's really warming and slightly sweet. So I feel like
Oh,
for a nice
nice.
cold, moody day, that would be a nice drink.
Perfect remedy.
And what was the last one? What would I be reading?
And what would you be reading? Yeah.
Oh,
Which might be a very hard question for
I
you
know.
because you love
No,
books.
no. Funnily enough, it was only in the past few years I started to read. Previously, I never read. I
No
think it wasn't
way.
until after I graduated uni, maybe a year after that, that I started to read, and I was like, I actually enjoy
So there's still
reading.
hope. There's still hope for
And
me.
that's I was going to say that to you earlier. I'm like, there's still hope, Colin.
Maybe I should start low. Maybe I'll get the Ladybird good books out.
Well, yeah,
Start
I
reading the
love a
nursery
kid's book. I
rhymes.
have to. I do. But yeah, I think I would. The Hobbit is one of my favorite books, and that's
All
actually
right.
a children's book. But it's just so cozy, and I love the friendship like amongst the characters and the sort of
Yeah.
adventure. I love a good murder mystery book, especially a cozy murder mystery. Um, and I read Rebecca last year, which has also become a favorite. So it would be one of those three. I feel like I couldn't
Okay.
pick.
Depending how you're feeling that day.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah.
amazing. What's been, this is like totally off script, but what's
Hmm.
been your favorite book to movie adaptation? Like,
Oh my
has there
goodness. Oh,
been
that's
a
such a
really
good
good movie
question.
that's done it justice?
Oh, good question. The first thing that came to mind, I really got on after I read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Um, Ever since I read that book, I've just been working my way through her collection of books. And I think most of them do have movie adaptations. Like Rebecca had, I think Netflix just brought one out with, is it Lily James and Arnie Hammer not that long ago, which was okay, but didn't really do the book justice in my opinion. But I read Scapegoat by Daphne du Maurier, and I'd watched. It was just a TV movie, but I was really impressed with how they had adapted it because I wasn't entirely happy with the ending, and the movie made the ending exactly how I wanted it.
They managed to
Yeah,
take it
yeah,
back, pull it back.
exactly. And I'm like, that's my dream ending for this book. So yeah, I think The Scapegoat I really enjoyed, even though it was just a TV movie, didn't have a huge budget, but I thought they did a really good job. And even actually, my dad was watching it with me, and he enjoyed it as well, which was quite rare because it was a sort of drama, and he that's not usually his preferred genre. So
Ah.
I was like, I would recommend Scapegoat.
Oh, ace. And just to continue to put you on the spot,
Hmm.
is there a book that you've read that you're
Hmm.
ever like, this would be great if they made a movie and it was set in Edinburgh, like as the setting?
Oh my word, yes, yes, I do. I have one actually. It's The Way of All Flesh by Ambrose Parry.
Ooh,
Um, yeah,
sounds
so
very mysterious.
yeah, it is really good. It's quite a moody. It follows a surgeon and his apprentice as they go around Old Town and Newtown. So it's slightly gory, but not too bad.
I can see that being set in Edinburgh. It's got a good on cobbles, all those sort of things.
Yes, I think I would love to see that.
I know from when we've worked together on press trips and things
Hmm.
that obviously you are a vegetarian, which I've had to take into
Yes,
account for all our meal
yes.
planning. My pet peeve, and it always
Hmm.
has been one of my pet peeves, is when you go somewhere and the only vegetarian option is a macaroni.
Oh yes, I
And it has to
agree.
be a really like a really, 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 really,
Yes.
really, really, really good macaroni to
To
make
make
it
up
worthwhile.
exactly.
But I've noticed recently more people are becoming, well,
Hmm.
more restaurants and eateries are becoming more
Hmm.
accommodating for vegetarians, which is great.
Hmm.
Where is a place that you've had the best vegetarian meal, and what was it you had?
Okay. I think it's actually at the shore. So if you go to the
Oh,
shore, you'll
okay,
have to go
great.
here and eat. It's called the Roseleaf Bar, I believe. And from the outside, it just looks like your traditional local pub. So I'm not saying that put me off, but I never thought to pop in for lunch.
It's a bit unassuming
Whenever,
from the outside.
yeah, yeah, I was like, oh, it's just a pub, like not what I'm looking for at the moment for
Yeah,
lunch.
you're definitely
And
going to get a
then
macaroni there type thing.
exactly, yeah. But then I remember reading something about it somewhere, and it's when you go inside, it's just so quirky with the decor as well. It's kind of slightly tropical, I feel, and there's just lots of
Oh,
quirky
cool.
things like hats, and they do um is it pot tails or something? It's like a cocktail in a teapot. And they do like Mad Hatter parties, that sort of thing. I think I've not actually been to
Nice.
one, but I'm pretty sure I've read that on their menu. But they do amazing vegetarian food, and I think I had something. It's been a really long time since I've been there, but it was some kind of wrap, and I think it's some kind of beetroot wrap with like chips and a salad, which sounds really plain. Um, and you do have to wait for your meal for a wee while, but it's really worth the
Mhm.
wait because I think they make everything pretty much from
From
scratch.
scratch.
Yeah, so the quality and like the flavors, even though it sounds like quite a simple meal, is so good. I would highly, highly recommend. And all their menus are actually in National Geographic magazines. So when you open them up,
All
it just
right.
looks like a magazine, and then inside is their menu.
Oh my God,
So
ace.
it's so
I am
quirky.
going there. I like, honestly, like, quirky places is like my favorite thing.
Yeah, I love when a place is so unassuming and then you go inside and it sort of blows your mind. You're like, this is not what I
Yeah,
expected.
I
Yeah.
know. Love it.
I should give you more than one place
Well,
actually. Sorry.
oh,
I just
go for
remembered.
it.
I'm
Go for
like,
it.
yeah, there's also if you're up near the university, there's just a stand, and it's called, I always say it wrong, and even the person has corrected me when I've asked him how to pronounce the name, but I think it's like Tupiniquim, and they do gluten-free Brazilian crepes, and you can get,
Oh,
yeah, they do obviously vegetarian, they do vegetarian ones and they do dessert ones, which I've actually never tried, but that's been on my list to try for a long time. And they also do like meat options, and it's just so good, and it's just a husband and wife team, so whenever you go it's always the same people and they're just so friendly and lovely. So that's
oh,
another really
ace.
good place for veggie food, and gluten-free as well, which is good.
Even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've touched on a few times that we've obviously worked together in the
Hmm.
past. You touched on it at the start that you were kind of blown away by Aberdeenshire when you
Yeah.
came on your visits.
Mhm.
And that wasn't even me trying my hardest. That was me just like kind of pulling stuff together and being like, this will be good, this will be good. Um,
No, honestly,
but
whenever I go, I'm
I
like, after the first trip, the second trip, and the third trip, I was like, I'm not even really looking at the itinerary because Colin will just have something amazing planned. Like, I don't even need to worry about where we're going. It's going to be amazing.
well, I'd love to take credit, but it's the people of Aberdeenshire that
Yes.
do the work for it. I just kind of pull everyone together. But no, but it was great to have you on our trips and for you to kind
Hmm.
of like to see that you genuinely loved coming to
Yeah.
visit and loved exploring new places.
Hmm.
Where's somewhere that kind of kept a piece of your heart?
Yes. Do you remember the hotel? You have to remind me where it is, but it's called the Darach Lairg.
Oh, the Darach Lairg.
Yeah, I
Yeah, the
love
Darach
that
Lairg.
hotel.
Oh,
Yeah.
TBT, I forgot about the Darach
I
Lairg.
know. Where's that again? I've
So
forgotten
that's in
the
Ballater.
Bellator. But
Ballater.
I
So if there's
loved staying there.
any non-Aberdeenshire listeners listening in, Ballater, it's in the national park, a beautiful little town, and it is known as the Royal Borough
Thanks.
town because it's got the most royal warrants, I think, in the UK. I want to say UK
Hmm.
because that's a
I
good thing
think
to say.
so. Hmm.
Because basically the royal family live next to Balmoral. So it's
Hmm.
a great little place to visit if anyone is looking for a
It's
day
so
trip.
lovely. And I love that hotel so much. I just feel it was done up to such a lovely spec. And
It was beautiful inside, wasn't it?
yeah, the brunch was amazing. And I'm just like, I could have stayed there for a week in my happy place. It was
Yeah.
just so peaceful, and the views. But yeah, that was one of the places. I've made a little list. Fitty,
Oh, great.
absolutely love
Fitty.
Fitty. I
Repping the
remember that's one of your
Fitty.
places.
Yes, love Fitty. I actually haven't been to Fitty in a while because through the lockdown,
Oh,
they kind of closed off and they
oh,
said, obviously, to
really?
protect the community inside,
That's
they were like,
mm-hmm.
if please don't come in, which was fair
That makes
enough.
sense.
So
Yeah.
actually, I've not been to Fitty in a while, so I need to go
Wow.
back. I need to go
Hopefully,
back.
once we're out of lockdown, you can return, and I can live
Please, please.
vicariously through you until I can like
Exactly.
revisit myself. And that restaurant there is so good. Is it the Silver
Silver Darling. Yeah,
Darling? Amazing.
it's great.
Stonehaven. I absolutely loved visiting
Stonehaven.
Stonehaven.
What
I
was your
still
favorite bit about Stonehaven?
the scenery obviously amazing, but I can't help but keep thinking, even to this day, I still think maybe once a week about the macaroni pie I had there at
Oh
the little
yes, from
fish.
the bay fish and
Yeah,
chips. Yeah.
yes. Whenever I think of macaroni pie, if I'm with my mom, I'm like, oh, mom, you need to try that macaroni pie from Stonehaven. It's so good. The
You just
scenery is
reminded me.
beautiful.
You just reminded me how much I miss the bay fish and chips.
Yeah.
I like, I've been so used to living in my Aberdeen bubble. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, bay fish and chips. Remember that? Remember that
Oh, I
lovely
would love,
place?
I know, I'd love to revisit on a nice sunny day. I think the day that we went, me, Harry, and India, it was fairly bright at the beginning. And then as we
Yes,
reached like the fish and chip
turned.
shop, it started like raining and windy. But the food made up for it that we didn't care. We're like, this is so good.
Yeah.
Amazing. What else did I have? Oh, Aberdeen Art Gallery. Absolutely loved the
Yes.
Aberdeen Art
Yeah.
Gallery. So good. And all of the castles pretty much that we visited. That would be the dream one day to tick off all the castles in
Oh, go
County.
castle bugging.
Yeah, that would be the
That'd be
dream.
good.
But yeah.
Oh, amazing. And in the art gallery, did you have like a favorite room that you liked?
Oh, good question. I think I like the room when you first walk in and you go straight ahead, and it's
Oh, the sculpture court?
yeah, Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that was my
it's good.
favorite. But I would just love like a whole day to spend in there and
Yeah,
just
you need
mosey
it.
around.
It's
Yeah,
so big. There's a
there.
library in there, so you need to go
Oh
back
my
for
word.
it's called the McBay Library. But
Mhm.
he was a local artist and they basically dedicated that room to
Oh,
him. But it's different
amazing.
books. I think it's about art and different collections and
Yeah.
stuff
Oh,
of
I'd
his.
love to go back.
But a good photo opportunity as well, I would
Yeah, I
say,
feel like
Shauna.
they've just done up the gallery so
It's
beautifully.
amazing.
Like they've just taken
Yeah,
time and it really shows.
really thought
Yeah.
about it, which is
Yeah.
good. So you've covered off a lot, but is there anywhere that you've still not seen that you know is out there that you're itching to tick off your list, or
Oh,
places?
this one I feel like I need to ask you for recommendations too, but there are a few just that I've kind of made mental notes. I saw last time when I was in like old Aberdeen area, there was a sign for the botanical gardens, and I'm like, oh, I love a botanic garden, so would like
Yes.
to visit there and see what that's like.
Yeah, that's
Um,
the Cruikshank Botanic Gardens, I think.
oh, amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
We just saw a sign and then we looked. I remember me, Harry, and India looked at our watches and we're like, we just don't have time. Like, we would
Yeah.
be, it
Always
would
the
really,
same.
yeah. um, and last time I was there, we got a tour of His Majesty's Theatre, but we didn't get to go see a show. So that is very high on
Yes.
my list. I want to go see a
Hmm.
show. Actually, before lockdown started, when I got back from Aberdeen, I was saying to my mum that we should go there for a little like weekend and stay. I like the hotel that we
Yes.
stayed at when we were there last time too. It was near
Oh,
His
the Sandman.
Majesty's. Yes,
Sandman.
yeah,
Yeah. Great
I like
hotel.
that. Such a good hotel. The comfiest beds I've maybe ever slept in. But yeah, and then I was like, we can go and see a show at His Majesty's Theatre, and then obviously COVID struck, so we've not done that yet. So that's still on our list.
Typical. On the list. Well,
Yeah,
I cannot wait for the theatre to open back up again and
yeah,
music and concert and thing to
I
return.
agree.
Hopefully, we don't have to wait too
Hmm.
much longer for
I
that because
know
it's
it's
when you
been too
see stuff on the
long.
TV and you're like, oh,
It's
imagine
just
like
not the
sitting in a
same.
cinema or it's not the same
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
So fingers crossed soon. Well, I'll have to get my thinking hat for places that you need to go to when you come back. I think
Yeah.
I took you to every corner. Oh, actually, no, you need to go to
Hmm.
Crivy,
Oh,
And
great.
Pennin,
Hmm.
which are like at the very
Amazing.
tip of
Hmm.
Aberdeenshire. So they're like two little coastal villages
Oh, I think I've
um,
seen, yeah, I've
that
seen,
are
yeah, photos of
they're
that, I
like
think.
little like literally just built into the cliffside, like
Oh,
beautiful little
yes.
towns.
Oh, I would
So
love to go there. I
definitely
think,
check
was
them
it
out.
Natalie from Map of Joy? Did she put up like a really snowy photo of there one time?
Yes, I think that rings a bell. Yeah,
Yeah, and I was like, oh my word, that's a good reminder, actually. That's
it's so
definitely high on
nice.
my list. Yeah.
Get that on your list. It
Yeah.
might be because you don't drive, so it might be a long bus journey.
Yes, I know.
But maybe get someone who drives to come up with you, and then
Yeah,
you can get them to drive you all the way out. But no,
exactly.
definitely. And you'll have to go to in Passport Soy, which is en route,
Oh,
and it's another
amazing.
coastal town. So they've just filmed Peaky Blinders, the last
Oh,
season.
really?
They've filmed
Oh, I didn't
series, I
know they
should
were
say.
filming in
How
Scotland.
American.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they filmed. I think they filmed part of it. So I think
Hmm.
they've just finished. There's an ice
Wow.
cream shop there called Port Soy Ice Cream, and it
Oh
is
my oh
phenomenal.
my
Which I
word.
feel bad about saying because from where I'm from,
Hmm.
originally a little town called Huntly, they also
Hmm.
have a local ice cream which is called Rizza's. Yeah,
I need to
both
go
good
there.
ice cream brands. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I need
Honestly,
to get
you
my
won't regret it.
license just so that I can
Yeah,
travel about Scotland. That's the only
yes,
reason. Yeah.
definitely. Well, we've like rattled through the questions, which I never thought would be possible for me
Wow.
because I like to ramble. But I've got one final question. What is your recipe for happiness? Any
Oh, good
given
question.
moment, like what gets you through the day? What's your key?
I think I get definitely a lot of peace from my faith. I do have faith, so I get lots of peace. I really need to. I feel like I need to go for a walk, hopefully once a day, or at least once every 2 days. Otherwise, I really start to feel a little bit down, and then I'm like, why am I feeling down? And I think it's just from being in the house. So just a lovely walk just brings me so much happiness being out
Hmm.
in nature, and especially this year, I think we've all slowed down a bit and um, just watching the seasons change has just been such a treat. Yeah, I think just trying to appreciate the small things in life. What else? A good book brings me a lot of happiness and a cup of tea. Just definitely the smaller things, having family and friends. But yeah, just sort of appreciating the smaller things and taking life a bit slower is things I've learned this past year that I want to try and make. sort of changes to how life was previously. Obviously, I want to see my friends again and travel and
Yeah,
do like work more, obviously, but trying to remember to slow down and enjoy life. Yeah.
definitely.
What
See
about you?
everything change around you.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think I'm probably the same, like with
Hmm.
walking. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's so bad, but
Hmm.
when lockdown first happened,
Hmm.
like I live in Old Aberdeen, which you
Yeah.
might be
Oh
envious
my
of.
word. I'm so
So I'm
envious.
just off the cobbles of
Beautiful.
College Bounds,
Oh wow.
and lockdown. I'd lived in my flat for 2 years before lockdown,
Wow.
and it was the first time I'd been into
Hmm.
Seton Park, which is literally
Yeah.
10 minutes down the road from me.
Hmm.
And I'd never seen
Amazing.
Seton Park, never seen,
Wow.
where was it? Never seen St. Macher Cathedral, never been to Dornmouth, and I was so
Wow.
close to it.
Hmm.
So I'm really thankful that lockdown was obviously awful,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
awful, still
Yeah.
happening.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I'm so thankful that I found that time to take it slow, look at
Yeah.
everything around me, and actually
I
take it all in.
100% agree.
Um,
Yeah.
Definitely, I think that's probably, I think everyone will likely say, but it's nice to kind of put things in
It
perspective,
is, and
isn't
just
it?
giving like nature the appreciation it kind of deserves as well. That when
Yeah,
you're busy, you just take it for granted, and you're like, oh, it's autumn. That's pretty, and then you kind of like head off, and you're like, oh, it's winter.
yeah.
But it's so nice to watch it change, and it's just so beautiful. Yeah, and
Exactly. And
yeah.
this might be a bit of a controversial question, but so you can
Oh,
choose not to answer it or not. But you mentioned your faith kind of got you through it as well.
yeah,
Was there
yeah.
ever a moment when
Hmm.
you were like, right, I believe in my faith.
Yeah,
Why is this happening?
yeah. I guess kind of, but somehow it just gave me more hope. I was like, we're
Hmm.
gonna get through this. I don't know. I think my faith was almost strengthened, even though all that was going on. I don't know. It just seemed, I guess, because I was slowing down a lot more too. But it just gave me hope. There was
And
a
it
light at the
pulled
end of the
everything
tunnel.
in,
Yeah,
everything into
yeah,
a bubble, hope
yeah.
bubble.
Yes, exactly. And just having more time, I guess, just to explore your faith a bit more. Because when you're busy, you're just like, oh yeah, I have faith, and then it
I'll
just
get to that,
things,
yeah.
yeah, exactly, things get in the way. But yeah, I definitely am appreciative of just having time to get to know my faith better again, I guess.
And I guess the bonus of lockdown is that you've
Hmm.
had time and I've had
Hmm.
time to interview you for this podcast.
Exactly.
So there's
Yes.
always a bonus.
Yeah. I've been
Because
so
otherwise
nervous. I'm like,
you'd be off on a press trip somewhere,
well,
you'd be
maybe.
off touring somewhere, writing another book. So it's great that we've managed to do this, but it's been great
Yeah,
talking.
it has. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a
I
thrill.
know.
I feel like now I'm relaxed a bit more. Like I've done my first podcast. I was so nervous, but we've made it
We
together.
made it to the end. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to see each other soon.
I
I'll
hope
come down to
so.
Edinburgh and you can give me
I'll give
a
you a
tour.
grand tour since I used to be
Hopefully
a
with
tour guide as
no,
well.
oh, you used to be a tour guide?
I did used to be a tour guide just for like 1 or 2 summers in Edinburgh, very small tour groups. But I did used to be a little tour guide.
Ace. Okay, well, Ace. So I'll be coming down. You'll
Yeah.
be showing me around. We won't have a
Hmm.
2 meter distancing in place. We'll be able to go
Absolutely.
into a cafe and have
Yeah.
coffee.
That sounds
It'll be
amazing.
so
And
good.
if when I come up to Aberdeen, I'll be asking for all the recommendations. And I want to meet your dog, your new
Oh my God,
dog.
yes. Ramsey, who
Is
has been very
is
quiet.
is Ramsey with you right now?
Yes, he is with me right now. So everyone at home, my camera is moving to show
Oh, he's
Shauna
so sweet. Oh my word.
sleeping. So to paint
That
the
must.
picture for everyone at home, he is sprawled out, looking a bit like a running horse on the sea,
Yes.
and he's
So
watching
sweet.
me as I speak about him. But
Oh
he's a
my
dad.
word.
So today we had a bit of an incident. So we're
Mm-hmm.
getting him used to living at home on his
Mm-hmm.
own. I am back in the office on
Oh,
odd
are you?
days.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting him used to living at home, and he ate half a pack of butter.
Oh my goodness,
So
Ramsey.
we're very, very
Oh my
excited to see
word.
what comes out the other end.
Oh my word.
Ain't that right, Ramsey?
So is he a big foodie as
Thanks.
well?
He is a big foodie. I think he's even a bigger
Oh.
foodie than me. He eats everything going. He wants to eat everything we have on
Oh
our
my word.
plate,
He's
but
so sweet.
we
He must have been
wouldn't
such
do
a
it.
joy to get through lockdown as well.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah,
And I've always wanted a dog,
me
and
too.
it was just felt right to get one. And I knew obviously there were so many people getting dogs, and there was the worry
Mm-hmm.
about, oh God, like what if you can't have the dog when you go back to work, when life goes
Yeah.
back to
Mm-hmm.
normal? But luckily, I've got flexibility to
Good. Mm-hmm.
have people, a good network of people around me to help out as well. So it's
Yeah.
been good, but it's such good company, and I think anyone who
Mm-hmm.
is struggling with loneliness or
Yes, I agree. Mm-hmm.
doesn't have the best social circle
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't have any
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have many friends or struggle to make
Yeah.
friends, get a
Mm-hmm.
dog. everyone
Yeah.
speaks to you. I've spoken to so many people from having a
Oh,
dog. It's
amazing.
mental. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh,
It's so
I
good.
cannot wait for the day that I can get a dog. Like that's top of my list of like achievements. I'm
Oh,
like, get a dog, adopt a
get a
baby,
dog.
a baby dog.
Honestly, like they are. I mean, I don't have kids of my own, but they are testing. And
Oh,
from some people I've spoke to, they've said that dogs are worse than kids.
I
So
can imagine.
yeah, so be prepared. I can give you many a tip. Many a
Yes,
tip.
I will be phoning you up. One of my best friends has a dog called Sally,
Is this the
and I
white
remember
one?
this
This
is
is the
the
white
white
fluffy one.
fluffy
Oh,
Samoyed. Yeah,
I'll
and I
put
remember
a link to the dog's account
yes,
in the bio because it's a cute bloody dog.
it's so you have to follow Scotland with Fluffy Wolf. It's just Sally around Scotland. But yeah, I remember when Claire was getting Sally. Well, she told me later that um, she was like, "This is a dog. It's not going to become my baby. Like it's a dog. You have to remember, it's not human." And now it's
Famous
like
last
totally her
words.
baby. Yeah, yeah.
I was going to say, like, yeah, they become your child. It's
They
mental.
do so easily. Yeah,
So
but yeah,
good.
I
But
can't wait
no,
to meet
thank
him.
you so much for joining me. It's been great to chat and get plenty of
Yes,
inspiration.
I
Edinburgh
cannot
is
wait.
somewhere I've not uncovered greatly, so
Hmm.
I'm very excited to get stuck in.
Yes, drop me a message. I'll give you a tour, and I can't wait to
Oh,
listen to the rest of your podcasts as well. It's so
oh my
exciting.
God. Wish me luck. We don't know how it's going to go.
You know, but it's such a good name as well. Dishing it, I'm like
Oh, do
perfect.
you love it?
So I love the
Good.
name. Yeah,
Oh, see,
really, really
I've got
good.
the stamp of approval from Exploring Edinburgh herself.
Yes.
Dishin it has a stamp of approval. Great.
Yeah.
Now, that, my friends, is what I would call a wholesome chat, and one that definitely loaded my travel list. If there's anything I took from my chat with Shauna, it's to look at your doorstep, explore what's there, and slow the hell down. Links to all the businesses talked about today can be found in the description of this podcast. And for those of you who are interested, Ramsay's stomach seems to be quite robust and managed to withstand the dairy overload from Buttergate. Quite remarkable. Next week, I'm joined by Mr. Fitness himself, Scott Bapty, who joins me to banish some dieting myths. Ooh, that's a hard one to say. Health hacks, and maybe he shares the best kept secret in diet. Or maybe he doesn't. You'll have to listen to find out. Right, I'm off to see how Ramsay can handle some hot Scotch bonnet peppers. But while I do that, stay safe, eat well, and speak soon. Oh, Ramsay!